And today, we are opening up a book that doesn't just critique the world of 1932.
No, it functions as a chillingly accurate social blueprint for the world we are constructing right now.
This is a deep dive into Aldous Huxley's Brave New World.
Our mission is simple. We're treating this novel not just as literature, but as a kind of technological and sociological instruction manual.
A warning that our sources have flagged as, well, highly relevant. We need to understand the mechanism of this manufactured society.
And, more importantly, why its structure is so seductively stable.
We've seen other dystopias that rely on external tyranny, the heavy boot on the neck.
Right, but Huxley's vision is far more insidious. It's all about internal compliance.
Okay, let's unpack this and get right to the core of it. The one sentence, the hook, that makes this book so vital today is this. This story predicted modern society in uncanny ways by providing a blueprint for a future decent. We're already building a world where guaranteed happiness comes at the cost of being perfectly engineered slaves.
And where the words mother and father are considered obscene.
Exact.
And that phrase you use, perfectly engineered slaves, that immediately establishes the core tension that we need to explore. Huxley recognized that the greatest threat to human liberty wouldn't be external oppression that forces you into chains.
But internal sedation.
Yes, something that makes you choose the cage. The entire narrative poses a question to you, the listener.
If you could eliminate all pain, all grief, all conflict, would the resulting life still be worth living?
And Huxley's citizens, they chose comfort and stability over messy, meaningful freedom. They chose servitude, but they did so happily.
Which, paradoxically, makes their society unbreakable.
It does.
So let's start with a non-spoiler overview. Let's introduce everyone to this terrifyingly cheerful new reality.
The setting is the future world state. We're centered in the Central London Hatchery and Conditioning Center.
And the time itself is measured strangely. Not Anno Domini, but after Ford.
That time designation is absolutely crucial. By measuring time after Ford, industrial efficiency and mass production have basically replaced religion and morality as the guiding doctrine of the world.
So Ford is God.
In a very real sense, yes. In the world state, perfect stability is achieved because the entire human experience from conception to the grave is manufactured and rigidly controlled.
It's all about eliminating all sources of emotional instability.
And the manufacturing process begins by getting rid of the single greatest source of chaos in the old world.
The family.
The family. The messy, unpredictable business of biology, love, and traditional parentage has been completely abolished.
Every child belongs only to the state.
The director gives us this clinical tour, and it starts in the fertilizing room. Ovaries are surgically removed, kept functioning at blood heat, and ovas are inspected and fertilized in vitro.
But the control extends beyond just lab conception. They engineer the population structure itself to eliminate jealousy and deep attachment.
Which is why 70% of the female population are free martins.
Explain that for us.
They're females deliberately made sterile by exposure to male hormones during embryonic development.
70%. That's an overwhelming figure.
It is.
So the goal isn't just population control, it's social disarmament.
Precisely. By eliminating the ability for most women to reproduce, you instantly extinguish the disruptive potential of romantic courtship, jealousy, and the profound, exclusive loyalty of motherhood.
If you want a perfectly placid and stable workforce, you have to eliminate emotional volatility right at the biological source.
But the true engine of stability, the technique that enables mass production applied to human life, is the Bokanovsky process.
The Bokanovsky process is what truly makes this world unique and, frankly, horrifying. For anyone who hasn't encountered the sources, can you explain this scientific intervention?
It's a shocking intervention. It forces a single human egg, when subjected to specific treatments, to divide and proliferate.
And it creates, what, dozens of embryos?
Up to 96 identical embryos. 96 clones from one egg, all destined for identical work.
Wow.
The sources note that the director speaks of this process with a kind of religious reverence because it's the ultimate expression of industrial efficiency.
Standardization.
Total standardization.
Yeah.
You can staff an entire floor of an assembly line with the product of a single egg.
Maximum efficiency, maximum interchangeability.
And that uniformity is key. From the fertilization room, the embryo is bottled, put in an artificial womb, and sent along a conveyor belt.
And it's during this 9-month journey that they are engineered for their specific caste roles.
Right. Alphas, the intelligentsia, betas, the managers, and then down to the deltas and epsilons, the menial labor.
This engineering isn't just about genetics, is it? It's about deliberate biological damage for the lower castes.
It is. The methods are brutal and clinical. While alphas and betas get every possible biological boost, the lower castes are deliberately stunted.
Oh.
They're dosed with alcohol in their artificial blood surrogate. They're deprived of oxygen to arrest their physical and mental development.
This complex thought becomes impossible.
Impossible. It keeps their intelligence low enough to be satisfied with simple, repetitive tasks.
Wait, I remember a specific detail in the sources about the rocket ship mechanics. We need to pause and emphasize this. It's a perfect, terrifying metaphor for forced comfort.
Oh, absolutely. The future rocket ship mechanics who will spend their working lives in zero-G.
Right.
They're conditioned from the embryonic stage. Their bottles are relentlessly spun on these racks.
Why? What did that do?
It conditions them to feel acute discomfort and nausea when they're right side up.
So they only feel comfortable when they're upside down.
A profound sense of comfort only when they are inverted. This forces them to be perfectly suited for the environment the state needs them to occupy without a single complaint.
So they're not just born into a class, they're literally built for it, biologically and psychologically.
And the conditioning doesn't stop at decanting. Once they are decanted as infants, they move into the neo-Pavlovian conditioning rooms.
This is the next layer of scientific control, a direct manipulation of their infant minds.
And it's rooted in early 20th century behaviorism. The director demonstrates with 8-month-old Delta babies.
They're lured with beautiful things, right? Picture books and flowers.
Bright, stimulating objects. But the moment their hands reach out, a shrill alarm sounds.
Followed by a mild electric shock.
And this is repeated hundreds of times.
And they quickly learn to associate books and nature not with curiosity, but with shrieking fear and pain.
Yeah.
But why that particular aversion? Why books and flowers?
The logic is pure, cold economic efficiency. A love of nature keeps no factories busy. It requires no consumption of goods.
And a love of books is worse.
Much worse.
Yeah.
Because it cultivates independent thought, history, and most dangerously disruptive, unmanageable ideas.
By eliminating curiosity and reflection, the state ensures they remain productive consumers.
But the deepest layer of control happens in the dark.
Sleep teaching. Hypnopedia. This is the operating system of the soul.
It is. Hypnopedia involves playing whispers into the dormitories while the children sleep, programming their subconscious minds with the core principles of the world state.
It's subtle, pervasive, and ceaseless. This is a crucial link to our modern world, if you think about it.
How so?
Think about the passive, constant digital saturation we live in, the brand messaging we absorb while scrolling or relaxing.
It's information that bypasses conscious scrutiny and sinks straight into the emotional, receptive mind.
And the most profound conditioning in the book is consumerist, drilled in through those catchy, insidious slogans.
Ending is better than mending.
The more stitches, the less riches.
The world state's economy relies on planned obsolescence. If people valued quality, longevity, frugality,
The entire system would seize up and stagnate.
these slogans are political dictates wrapped in economic advice, ensuring constant consumption and rapid turnover of goods. It locks the populace into the system through their manufactured need for new things.
And the ultimate escape mechanism, the guarantee of contentment, is Soma.
Soma is the state's most powerful tool for stability. It's willful ignorance in pill form, a chemical leash.
Euphoria without hangovers. Spiritual comfort without disruptive dogma.
It's the instant solution to every emotional ill. A gram is better than a dam.
So the population is content, productive, and perfectly stable.
Having traded messy, unpredictable humanity for engineered happiness.
We have to warn you here. This next section contains major plot details that are crucial for understanding the book's core argument.
And why this perfect world eventually cracks open.
The crack appears because not all the engineering is perfect. We meet two key internal anomalies in London.
First is Bernard Marx. He's an alpha plus who is physically underdeveloped and insecure, which leads him to perceive the suffocating hollowness of his world.
And then there's Helmholtz Watson.
A brilliant lecturer, an alpha who is simply too smart for the trivial, repetitive, state-sanctioned poetry he is forced to write. He is suffocating on superficiality.
These two outcasts take a trip to the only place on Earth where the world state hasn't eliminated the past.
The savage reservation in New Mexico.
And this place is the complete inversion of the world state.
It's a world of dirt, disease, aging, religion, real gods, families, and, most importantly, pain. It's unstable, but it's real.
And it's a strange blend of surviving Zuni traditions and a warped, sort of medieval-style Christianity.
And there, they find the person who will become the catalyst for chaos, John, who is eventually named the Savage.
He is the son of a civilized woman, Linda, who got lost years ago and stayed.
Linda's story is itself tragic. She was a product of the world state conditioned for promiscuity and cheerfulness, but she aged naturally on the reservation.
And became grotesque in the eyes of the natives.
They scorned her inability to form lasting bonds. She quickly spiraled into alcoholism, unable to cope with the reality of natural life. She is the ultimate victim, trapped between two irreconcilable realities.
But John, raised as an outcast among the natives, had one extraordinary source of knowledge that preserved his humanity.
A tattered single book.
The complete works of William Shakespeare.
Shakespeare becomes the third key symbol of the novel, the ghost of a lost, passionate humanity.
And because he had no other context, John absorbed Shakespeare as reality.
Hamlet gave him a profound sense of filial duty and grief. Othello shaped his understanding of intense loyalty and tragic betrayal.
And Romeo and Juliet gave him an impossible vision of pure, sacrificial love.
This high art, passionate lens is all he has to view the world through. So when he and Linda are brought back to London,
John is instantly a celebrity, an anthropological curiosity.
Initially, he is mesmerized, quoting Miranda from The Tempest, "Oh, brave new world, that has such people in it."
But his wonder turns to revulsion as he sees the population. Millions of identical, satisfied, shallow slaves who know nothing of the beautiful agony he found in Shakespeare.
His revulsion quickly culminates in disaster. First, he witnesses his mother, Linda, embrace a permanent terminal Soma holiday.
Dying alone in a hospital where children are brought in to be conditioned not to fear death.
And second, he is utterly incapable of reconciling his poetic, profound love for Lenina with her casual, conditioned sexuality.
Lenina, conditioned that everyone belongs to everyone else, offers herself to him freely.
And for John, this is an unthinkable sacrilege. In a moment of Shakespearean rage, he calls her an impudent strumpet, violently rejecting the trivialization of intimacy.
The clash between the passionate individual and the emotionless paradise comes to a head in the final confrontation.
John, driven mad by his mother's death, sees workers lining up for their Soma ration. He tries to ignite a revolution by throwing the pills out the window,
Shouting, "I'll teach you to be free, whether you want to be or not."
That moment is fascinating because it highlights the fundamental misunderstanding of the world state's control. John believes they are enslaved and must be forced into freedom,
But they riot not for liberty.
but because he took away their source of happiness.
This revolt leads him to the office of the most powerful man in the world, world controller Mustafa Mond.
And this is where the novel transitions from plot to pure philosophical debate.
Mond is the ultimate defender of the world state, and his defense is brilliant, precisely because it's logical. He's not a simple tyrant.
No, he proves the world state is the necessary path to stability. He cites historical proof points, like the catastrophic Cyprus experiment.
The Cyprus experiment is fascinating. They isolated a community of just alphas, the intellectual elite.
And they collapsed into civil war and mass executions within 6 years.
It proved that perfect intelligence is inherently unstable.
Incapable of self-governance without friction. Mon also references the 9 Years' War and the collapse that followed, which was so devastating that the world begged the world controllers to impose order.
The world state was requested, not imposed.
Mon's core argument against the old world is that high art, passion, and tragedy are incompatible with social stability.
He says high art like Othello is simply too beautiful, too upsetting, too passionate for a stable society.
It creates feelings that people can no longer understand or manage.
And this is where we see Mond's personal sacrifice.
He openly admits that he, too, was once a rebellious, brilliant physicist who had to choose between being exiled or staying to rule.
He chose to abandon his own love of truth for the manufactured happiness of the masses.
And science itself is regulated, kept on a tight leash. It's only allowed to function as a cookery book, providing recipes for maintaining the status quo.
Forbidden from pursuing anything new or potentially disruptive.
But John passionately argues for the value of inconvenient truth over a comfortable lie.
He demands the right to a meaningful existence. I want God, I want poetry, I want real danger, I want freedom, I want goodness, I want sin.
And Mon's response, delivered with this calm, almost sad understanding, is the ultimate philosophical summary of the book.
He says, in fact, you're claiming the right to be unhappy.
John's resolute reply, "All right then, I'm claiming the right to be unhappy," is his final, absolute rejection of the system. He demands meaning, even if it brings pain.
And the tragic end is perhaps the most profound warning for us today. John is granted his right to be unhappy.
He attempts purification through isolation and self-flagellation at a remote lighthouse. He turns his back on the world state.
But the world state won't let him go.
His penance, his grief, his intense spiritual anguish are captured by a photographer and immediately turned into a sensational feely, a hypersensory movie.
Helicopters of tourists descend, chanting, "We want the whip." His genuine suffering is treated as thrilling, grotesque entertainment.
John is defeated not by a tyrant's boot, but by the relentless, consuming power of spectacle and triviality. Consumed by the horror of a world that can only process pain as amusement, he commits suicide.
The message is stark. In the world state, even dissent is commodified and neutralized. That ending is brutal. But understanding the man who wrote it, it makes the vision hit even harder.
We need to transition from the world he built to the specific historical anxieties that shaped the mind of Aldous Huxley.
Huxley, born in 1894, was truly an intellectual aristocrat.
His lineage was steeped in both science and literature. He was the grandson of Thomas Henry Huxley, the famous defender of Darwin. Darwin's bulldog. So this placed him firmly in a tradition of rational inquiry and intellectual rigor.
But his life was quickly marked by physical tragedy, which led to a life defined by observation and skepticism.
Two major events stand out. First, at 16, a severe eye infection left him nearly blind,
which forced him away from his early ambition to become a scientist.
And into a life where intellectual observation and synthesis, rather than direct physical experience, became primary. He literally had to learn to see the world differently.
And the second defining moment was the early death of his mother.
This tragedy, combined with his physical struggles, instilled in him a deep, lasting aversion to the easy, comforting platitudes people use to mask the brutal reality of loss.
He became fundamentally suspicious of any philosophy, scientific or religious, that promised to eliminate pain with simple, superficial answers.
And that skepticism became the foundation of his critique of the world state's engineered happiness.
So this was a scientific mind, grounded in intense observation, who was inherently suspicious of solutions that were too simple.
Absolutely. And his personal struggles combined with the geopolitical influences of the 1920s to solidify his pessimistic vision.
His travels provided the immediate sociological inspiration.
He lived in Italy during the rise of Benito Mussolini. There, he witnessed firsthand the mechanics of a fascist state.
State propaganda, mass rallies, the suppression of the individual.
All engineered for maximum perceived efficiency and national unity.
That's the totalitarian control side of the equation. But his visit to the United States gave him the other, softer, more insidious side.
Technological totalitarianism driven by consumption. He traveled extensively in the U.S. and was repelled by its relentless cheerfulness.
Its cultural homogenization and the burgeoning consumer culture where identity was just buying new things.
He saw a society rushing headlong into a future driven by markets and superficial satisfaction, a rush he felt was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature.
So why did he write Brave New World specifically in 1932? Was it just a reaction to current events?
It was a very specific, deliberate, and deeply satirical response to his contemporary H.G. Wells,
who was the reigning king of optimistic utopian fiction.
Right. In novels like Men Like Gods, Wells believed that science, reason, and efficiency would solve all of humanity's problems and lead to paradise.
The ultimate enlightenment project finally realized.
And Huxley fundamentally disagreed with that premise. He feared the opposite outcome.
He argued that the obsessive pursuit of total efficiency and convenience would lead not to liberation, but to a new, more profound form of servitude.
One that humanity would willingly embrace because it was comfortable.
So Brave New World was conceived as a powerful counter-utopia to Wells's naive optimism.
He essentially said, if we achieve your paradise, Wells, this is what it will actually look like.
Placing Brave New World in its historical moment transforms it from fiction into a vital window into the anxieties of the 1920s and early 30s.
The foundational event was the Great War, World War I, which had ended only a decade prior.
And that war shattered the core European confidence in the Enlightenment project. The war wasn't fought with muskets and honor.
No, it was mechanized, industrialized slaughter on an unimaginable scale. The machine that was supposed to bring progress brought death instead.
This resulted in the lost generation, a demographic deeply skeptical of every traditional value.
Honor, patriotism, religion, progress itself. These values had led them to the trenches.
And this disillusionment created a profound spiritual void.
And a desperate search for radical order and stability. Totalitarian solutions, whether Mussolini's fascism or the social control imagined by Huxley, suddenly became philosophically appealing.
Appealing to those who feared chaotic freedom more than ordered subservience.
This search for radical manufactured order connects directly to the book's central guiding figure, Henry Ford.
He's the state's god, but let's talk about the real-world implications of Fordism.
Ford's assembly line was an economic revolution for sure, but it came at a psychological cost.
It transformed the worker into an extension of the machine.
Minimizing individual thought, demanding maximum repeatable motion. This dehumanization, applied on a global scale, was Huxley's greatest fear.
And Ford's control extended far beyond the factory floor. The sources highlight his sociological department. This wasn't a metaphor for control.
No, it was literal, intrusive social policing. That's a crucial distinction. Ford's sociological department had hundreds of investigators who would actually inspect workers' homes.
What were they checking for?
Whether the houses were clean, whether the workers drank alcohol, whether they had stable marriages, whether they maintained appropriate morality.
And if you failed the inspection,
you risk losing your bonus or your job.
So Ford effectively blended industrial production with intrusive social and moral control.
Absolutely. It established a powerful real-world precedent. Happiness, morality, and economic contribution were all treated as interchangeable concepts.
All measured by one seamless function within the industrial economy.
Huxley simply extrapolated. If we accept this level of control to standardize cars, we will eventually accept it to standardize people.
So time is measured after Ford, because mass production is the new spiritual creed.
The Industrial Revolution gave him the factory model for society, and the burgeoning scientific community gave him the justification.
Which brings us to the rise of behavioral psychology.
The early 20th century saw the profound impact of Ivan Pavlov's conditioned dogs and the work of John B. Watson, the father of behaviorism.
Watson famously claimed that, given control of an infant's environment, he could mold any child into any type of specialist.
Doctor, lawyer, beggar, or thief, regardless of their inherent talents.
This must have been deeply unsettling for a writer like Huxley, who believed in the profound, unpredictable potential of the individual spirit.
It provided the perfect moral and scientific license for the world state. If human beings are essentially complex, predictable mechanisms,
driven by stimulus and response,
then it is not only acceptable, but efficient and humane to program them for optimal social functioning.
This scientific idea validated the neo-Pavlovian conditioning rooms. The electric shocks, the sirens, the sleep teaching.
A marriage of Ford's economic philosophy with the mechanistic psychology of behaviorism to create the perfect, stable, and self-policing prison.
When we explore Brave New World today, the goal isn't just a historical analysis. It's understanding what fundamental questions it poses that are still relevant to our lives.
The core question is, what is the true cost of total stability? The primary idea is the manufacturing of contentment.
Huxley shows that a population isn't controlled by state police or fear, but by being so thoroughly distracted, entertained, and pleased that they never once question the reality they inhabit.
They are happy in their confinement. It's a gilded cage of endless, superficial pleasure.
That distinction, tyranny by distraction versus tyranny by oppression, is what makes the book so terrifyingly modern.
It is. And the primary tool for maintaining this compliant bliss is Soma. It is far more than just a tranquilizer.
It's a chemical social contract, willful ignorance in pill form.
It is the ultimate antidote to critical thought. It floods the user with euphoria, erasing any rough edges of reality without the inconvenience of hangovers or disruptive dogma.
A gram is better than a dam isn't just a slogan, it's a policy statement.
It replaces complex thought, painful introspection, and religious questing with instant chemical bliss. The state doesn't need to suppress feelings, it just needs to chemically redirect them.
This is where the relevance hits home. We live in a world that offers an immediate pharmaceutical solution for every emotional spectrum and an endless stream of digital entertainment as distraction.
The book forces us to audit our own lives. How often do we reach for a technological or chemical comfort, our own soma, to avoid facing a difficult truth?
To avoid engaging with necessary pain or dealing with the inherent messiness of reality.
The world state ensures the citizen never develops the intellectual or emotional muscles needed for resilience, because the pain always goes away instantly.
Let's pivot to another massive theme, the elimination of family and deep passion. Why is romantic love, the very pillar of traditional narratives, considered so dangerous?
Because deep love, what John called Shakespearean love, creates powerful, exclusive loyalties that compete directly with the state.
A strong bond between two individuals creates a center of gravity outside the control of the collective.
The state must be the citizen's only source of loyalty and belonging.
So romantic love is abolished and replaced with casual, sanctioned promiscuity under the state's official creed. Everyone belongs to everyone else.
Passion is messy, disruptive, and fundamentally inefficient. By enforcing easy, non-exclusive sex, they eliminate jealousy, heartache, and the deep, possessive emotions that lead to instability.
A clean, efficient solution to managing volatility.
And crucially, this lack of exclusivity is economically necessary. It links to the consumerist conditioning.
Right. Those sleep-teaching slogans weren't just about shaping morality. They were about ensuring the economic engine never seized up.
The economic necessity is paramount. The system is predicated on planned obsolescence and constant consumption. The slogans, "Ending is better than mending," "The more stitches, the less riches," are the operating system of the citizen.
Constantly reinforced to ensure rapid purchasing and discarding.
It is not just commercial strategy. It is a political one that ensures the populace remains tethered to the system through material need.
Which brings us back to the central theme, the argument between John and Mond. The right to unhappiness. This is the philosophical core.
This is where Huxley makes his greatest claim. Mond argues for the utility of universal happiness, framing the elimination of suffering as the greatest humanitarian achievement.
He believes utility trumps truth.
But John argues that pain, real danger, grief, and inconvenient truths are necessary prerequisites for a meaningful, high-level existence.
For art, for profound joy, for faith, for true, tragic love.
You cannot have one without the other. If you eliminate suffering, you must also eliminate profound experience.
By claiming the right to God, poetry, and sin, John is claiming the necessity of the full human spectrum.
He demands the inconvenient truth that accompanies true freedom. He suggests that a life without struggle, grief, or tragedy is not truly a life well lived,
but merely a well-maintained biological existence devoid of soul.
But let me challenge that premise, drawing from our sources. Mond wasn't just guessing. He had historical evidence like the Cyprus experiment.
Right.
Isn't it logical that after centuries of poverty, war, and disease, humanity would rationally choose a stable, comfortable life, even if it meant sacrificing freedom?
That is the terrible logic Mond relies on. The world state is, in one sense, a rational response to history.
If humanity continually proves it cannot manage its own emotional and political instability, then handing over the reins to scientific managers becomes a rational choice.
But Huxley's critique is that rationality, when pushed to its logical extreme, becomes utterly irrational regarding the human spirit.
The stable society is also a stagnant society, which brings us to the next point. The characters themselves reveal the limitations of this rationality.
The brilliance of the novel lies in presenting three distinct character viewpoints.
They represent the fundamental choices humanity can make when faced with the demands of engineered reality.
Let's start with Mustafa Mond, the world controller. He's the most complex character because he embodies the tragedy of utility. He's a villain.
No, he's a highly intelligent man who made a deliberate, painful choice. Mond is the calm, reasoning voice of the state.
He is a former physicist who loved disruptive truth, but sacrificed that love to ensure the happiness and order of billions.
His motivation is based on the terrible calculus of the greater good. He knows exactly what his society has abandoned: Shakespeare, God, challenging science. But he justifies it.
He justifies it by saying the alternative was global chaos, disease, and war.
He defends the choice with that cold, impeccable logic. He believes the world begged for this comfortable lie.
Mond represents the ultimate triumph of utility over intellectual freedom. His personal tragedy is that he is forced to live in the sterile reality he created,
constantly guarding the truth that he loves but cannot share. He must defend the reduction of the human spirit while knowing exactly what that spirit is capable of. He is the guardian of the lie.
And that knowledge is his lifelong punishment.
Then we have John the Savage, the tragic figure, and the archetypal romantic. He is the living ghost of lost humanity.
The embodiment of passion.
John is driven entirely by the concepts the world state considered obsolete: honor, profound grief, self-sacrifice, and idealistic love, all absorbed from Shakespeare.
His power lies in his ability to articulate what they have lost, but his failure lies in his rigidity.
His mind, trained on the grand black and white passions of high art, cannot handle the triviality or the gray areas of world state life.
Precisely. He views Lenina not as a complex, conditioned woman, but as a pure goddess worthy of sacrifice or a treacherous temptress.
He is incapable of dealing with casual physicality because he lacks the conditioning to accept that intimacy can be trivial.
His inability to reconcile his poetic ideal with the physical reality of the world state is his core psychological weakness.
And it's what ultimately drives him to isolation and self-destruction. His language, which should be his strength, is incomprehensible to the world state citizens.
Finally, we must discuss Linda, who is perhaps the most pitiable figure embodying the system's lack of tolerance for failure.
Linda's story is heartbreaking because she belonged nowhere. Her world state conditioning, her promiscuity and dependence on Soma made her an outcast on the reservation.
But when she was returned to London, her natural aging, her natural birth, and her grotesque appearance made her obsolete.
Obsolete in a society obsessed with perpetual youth and engineered beauty, the system simply had no place for her.
It did.
Unable to fit into either environment, she chose the ultimate, permanent Soma holiday. Her death illustrates the system's cruelty not through active force, but through pure, clinical abandonment.
The world state has no tolerance for inefficiency, ugliness, or natural decay.
She simply chemically escaped a reality where she was a profound, living contradiction.
For listeners who appreciate the craft of writing, Brave New World is masterfully constructed to enhance its chilling message. What literary elements make this novel feel so uniquely sterile and powerful?
The narrative strategy is paramount. Huxley immediately plunges you into the world state via the director's clinical, monotone tour of the hatchery.
We witness truly horrific axe-depriving embryos of oxygen, administering electric shocks to infants, but they're described using sterile, efficient, technical vocabulary.
Devoid of any emotional register, the effect is that the language itself normalizes the abnormal. The reader is horrified, but the characters discussing these acts are just talking about optimal industrial processes.
The scientific jargon serves to strip the acts of their moral weight.
It's not an emotional critique by yelling, it's a terrifying administrative report. And then there are the conditioning slogans we discussed earlier.
The repetitive, catchy slogans like, "Ending is better than mending," the operating system of the soul.
They show the immense, subtle power of language in social control. They are simple, memorable, and constantly reinforced, ensuring the citizens act according to the state's dictates without the messy inconvenience of independent, critical thought.
It's language used as a form of non-negotiable mental architecture.
The symbolism in the settings is also incredibly effective. The hatchery replaces the womb, but let's look at the Park Lane Hospital for the Dying.
This is where the world state conquers the final messy element of human life, death itself.
Death is the ultimate source of disruptive grief and existential introspection. The state cannot allow this.
The hospital is intentionally pleasant, full of music, bright colors, and sweet smells.
The purpose is death conditioning. Children are literally brought in, given treats, and encouraged to play near the beds of the dying.
By associating death with treats, music, and play, they strip it of its terror, its significance, and its ability to inspire deep grief.
It ensures that the citizens remain docile and unconcerned by the final passage, eliminating the need for religion or philosophical inquiry. Death becomes just another state-mandated activity.
A smooth transition out of the labor pool.
And finally, the mandatory state religion, the bizarre ritual that replaces spiritual fulfillment, the solidarity service.
This is Huxley's brilliant, absurd invention. It's the world state's highly engineered substitute for religious transcendence and true community.
12 people gather, consume Somali's communion in the form of strawberry ice cream, and engage in rhythmic chanting. The frenzy builds with stomping feet and the mantra,
Orgy porgy, forward and fun, kiss the girls and make them one.
a Somali's strawberry ice cream communion that ends in a group orgy.
The absurdity is the point.
It is a deliberate manipulation of the deep human yearning for spiritual unity and ecstasy. The individual identity melts away. They achieve a temporary, chemical, state-sanctioned transcendence.
It channels that spiritual hunger into a ritual that ultimately reinforces social cohesion and obliterates the self, all under the guise of mandatory fun.
It's an engineered spiritual release that poses no threat to stability.
How was this book received when it was first published in 1932? Was it immediately recognized as a dark prediction?
It was certainly controversial, but initially it was received primarily as a satirical response to the widely accepted optimistic science futures of the era, particularly those of H.G. Wells.
Critics recognized it as a brilliant, chilling critique of efficiency, mass consumerism, and behavioral psychology.
I can imagine that in 1932, during the depths of the Great Depression, People might have struggled to believe a world obsessed with relentless cheerfulness and mass consumption was truly the ultimate danger.
They might have seen Fordism as salvation, not a slippery slope.
That's precisely right. Many readers were still caught up in the promise of science and efficiency. They saw Utopia as the solution. So, while it was appreciated for its literary craft, it wasn't immediately hailed as prophetic.
So why did it become such a foundational classic?
It became revered precisely because its predictions proved so disturbingly accurate regarding consumer culture and pharmaceutical happiness.
As Western society became increasingly affluent, obsessed with perpetual youth, increasingly dependent on quick fixes for anxiety, and saturated with entertainment.
Our modern Soma. The book moved from speculative fiction to a foundational text for thinking about social control. It spoke directly to the emerging fears of homogenized life and the dangers of comfort.
The fear shifted from oppression by the state, like in Orwell's 1984.
To oppression by distraction and comfort, exactly. Huxley's book became the preferred lens for critiquing a consumer society, whereas Orwell's became the lens for critiquing totalitarian regimes.
Both are important, but only Huxley truly captured the danger of the population loving their servitude.
Let's trace the line from Huxley's 1932 fears to today's anxieties. The influence of Brave New World is everywhere.
Particularly in how we conceptualize the dangers of convenience and technology.
The lasting power is the fear it instills. The fear of being consumed not by external tyranny, but by internal triviality and pleasure.
It laid the groundwork for the modern dystopian genre that critiques contentment rather than violence.
And the tragic end of John the Savage serves as the perfect, terrible illustration of this specific type of societal influence.
His tragedy is profoundly modern and highly influential. John is not defeated by a firing squad, he is defeated by spectacle.
When he attempts to find profound meaning through isolation and self-flagellation, the world turns his profound spiritual anguish into a thrilling, grotesque entertainment.
The tourists descend, chanting and turning his grief into a feeling.
That scene is vital because it illustrates the modern paradox. No matter how profound the message, a hyper-consumerist, media-saturated society can only process it as entertainment.
It neutralizes dissent, not by banning it, but by commodifying and trivializing it.
The book serves as a constant, powerful reminder of the importance of the individual spirit against homogenizing societal forces, urging us to question the actual cost of convenience.
It poses that enduring question. In our quest to eliminate all discomfort, how often do we reach for our own version of Soma?
Be it a pill for every problem, an endless stream of social media, or an app for every discomfort, to avoid facing a difficult but necessary truth.
It changes the focus of resistance. You aren't fighting the police, you're fighting the urge to be perpetually entertained.
And that's a much harder fight because the enemy is within.
Bringing this deep dive to a close, what stands out as the most terrifying idea Huxley put forward?
For me, it's the intellectual control defended by Mustafa Mond. The key takeaway is the idea that stability is only achieved by keeping science, the human pursuit of disruptive truth, on a tight leash.
Mond understands that pure, unfettered scientific curiosity will inevitably lead to new social instability, new ideas, and new conflicts.
Therefore, science must be relegated to a cookery book status, providing only recipes for maintaining the status quo, strictly forbidden from pursuing anything new.
The suppression of fundamental intellectual curiosity is what makes the prison unbreakable and the society eternally stagnant.
It's the ultimate intellectual sacrifice. The world state is built on the premise that intellectual progress is antithetical to human happiness.
My key takeaway is the chilling efficiency of the control mechanism itself. The world state is entirely self-policing because the citizens are designed to be happy with their lot.
The Epsilons genuinely enjoy their sewage-working jobs, their brains biologically conditioned and starved of oxygen to make complex thought impossible and menial labor enjoyable.
That level of engineered satisfaction makes revolt incomprehensible. They don't need police oppression, they have engineered devotion.
The citizens are not oppressed victims, they are the devoted victims of a system they deeply adore.
That distinction, loving your servitude, is why this book is so much more difficult to digest than standard dystopias.
Absolutely. It makes the idea of resistance almost impossible, because resistance implies a belief in a better, happier alternative, and they already possess chemically guaranteed happiness.
So who should read Brave New World today?
Anyone who feels suffocated by modern triviality and the pressure for constant performative happiness.
Anyone interested in why profound emotion and challenging experiences like love, loss, and the acknowledgement of death are absolutely essential to being truly alive.
And understanding the context transforms the reading. Reading the book knowing Huxley was influenced by the horrors of post-WWI chaos, the invasive efficiency of Fordism, and the rise of Mussolini's fascism.
It transforms the fiction into a historical anxiety made manifest. It hits differently when you realize the nightmare he described was a rational response to very real, ongoing trends.
And not just a distant, abstract nightmare. The great books are conversations across centuries that challenge us to examine our own world and our own choices. This is one of the most powerful challenges ever written.
This has been a profound exploration. Thank you for guiding us through these sources and helping us unpack this massive work.
It was my pleasure. Keep questioning the comfortable answers.
And as we close this deep dive, let's leave you with the final provocative thought from that confrontation between John and Mond.
Mond asked John, "You're claiming the right to be unhappy." John's reply was resolute. "All right then, I'm claiming the right to be unhappy."
We live in a world obsessed with eliminating every conceivable form of discomfort, be it emotional, physical, or social. Brave New World asks us, are we brave enough to claim the right to be unhappy?
What discomfort, what necessary truth are we chemically or technologically avoiding today to maintain our comfortable illusion of stability? Until the next deep dive, keep questioning your contentment.
We'll see you soon.